You know what? Can we go back to that last eight measures, so we can all get set for it? Ba, 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 that high F. That was beautiful. I heard some men up there. That's got me a little concerned.
He wasn't in the army.
But I found out some of these men sound better when they're high, so I mean. Okay. Let's, can we take it right at the bridge? Oh, that's where it starts with tonight. Tonight. Loud now. Yourself a round of applause for that. Did you hurt yourself at all? Okay. How about doing, well, let's give the next one. How High the Moon. Now, How High the Moon became a jazz classic. I remember attending the jazz at the Philharmonic probably about half a dozen times. And that song was played for every one of them. How High the Moon. You have it? Okay, what we're going to do, we're going to sing the first verse, and then Danny's going to do a featured piano solo, jazz solo. It's not even written down yet.
Wow.
Okay, and then we're going to come back in just like we know what we're doing, and we're going to come in like we're hip. You know what it is to be hip, don't you? Or is it hip? I've forgotten. Is it hip to be hip or hip to be hip? There's music, how high the moon, somewhere there's heaven, how high the moon, there is no moon above the The 11 talented fingers of Mr. Danny Cook. Oh, you're sounding great. How are we doing on time? Okay, we're doing all right. I did a study probably about 10 years ago. It was based on a book that Alec Wilder, who's a very fine composer, he chose what he thought were the 100 most popular, I shouldn't say popular necessarily, but well-constructed melodies and harmonies in the era of swing, up till I think his book went to 1955. And then I started thinking, boy, there's one decade that just dominates this. Guess which one do you think it was? It's 1930s. 1930s. In doing this, looking at these things, I think, oh my Lord, I'd love to do this, but that was 1939, 1938. Keep in mind, what was happening then? Up until the early 30s, the popular song was made popular by how much sheet music it sold. Because in 1912, it still stands. There were more pianos sold in 1912 than any other year that followed it. What's happening then? Can you remember? Well, this thing called, ragtime came out. And particularly, the women took to the piano. And sometimes to the men that were playing the piano. But I knew I shouldn't have said that. I lost it, didn't I? Okay.
That's all right.
Okay. So anyway, it's true. Then as the recording industry became more popular, then it converted to how many records were sold. And so in 1935, the president of American Tobacco Company started the hit parade. And they would every week pick the songs that were supposedly played by and sung in movies, in shows, and in particular the recorded songs. And that's how it made its shift. And now, but in the 30s, guess what's happening? They still had vaudeville, the early 30s in particular. They still had, and Hollywood was just coming into its own with sound. You think of some of these songs and the progress that they made. Then they had also nightclubs that did extravagant shows. And they had jazz clubs and ballrooms. And it was all happening simultaneously, and radio in particular. And every little station had some kind of a combo or orchestra or band. And what would happen, the publishing companies would publish a tune, and then they would send it free to the various radio stations saying, please plug this number. And then the guys would play it and see how popular it would be. And so you had an industry of real craftsmen out there to show, the main thing was to have the spotlight on the music and not necessarily the performer. And you had these wonderful, wonderful lyricists who were the poets of the day. You listen to some of those words, read the words in themselves, and they can be interpreted as poetry without the music. And then you had these wonderful composers. And they were writing for Broadway and for Hollywood. And most of the great composers came from Broadway, went to Hollywood where they could make more money and play tennis. And so it was an era that we will never see again. And so I think what we're doing here today has meaning. I would love to be able to see more groups getting together, just singing. It's the closest we can come to recapturing the days that we look back upon. People who sing together, cling together. And so we can do, I'll tell you what, why don't we do God Bless America?